right, we are live for the 99th episode of the
Let's Go podcast. We're back. 99. Aaron Judge, my poor IL'd Yankee. However, we are with the awesome, the legend, and the huge supporter of HSL in all ways, Aaron Gordon of Gordon Companies of the Keep Hustling podcast. This is a long time coming. We are very thankful and grateful for Aaron. We're very happy to have him on our podcast, also sending his kids to our leagues, of course, and very much involved in the HSL. Dave, do you think?
I know Aaron. I would say a little bit at this point. You know, I
I'm not
had
as patient.
I had a supervisor who used to say, "You're with a patient for a year. That's not even a cup of coffee." So I would say I know Aaron a little bit. Everything I know about him is good. He's been immensely helpful to the development of the HSL youth. He's a big sponsors teams for the HSL. Fundamentally interested in the growth of the HSL. Whenever I bring something to him that involves any kind of tiered or expense to us, he says, "No, don't worry about it. I'm just focused on your growth," which is very rare. And I'll also add to that I've watched a whole bunch of the Keep Hustling podcast, which I highly recommend. And you're very kind and generous to your guests in sort of strengthening them, promoting them, making them feel like they're doing good in the world is something I've noticed about you.
Avi, I'm getting very uncomfortable. Like there's a level of like baiting psychoanalysis going on. You know, like I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't feel like Dave should be that guy.
I'm used to it. I'm used to it.
Like
I'm used to it.
He's like buttering you up, and then like he's gonna in the edit he's gonna be like, just so you know, according to my analysis, Aaron Gordon is a type 7 psychopath with an 85% chance of being a mass murderer.
Could be.
Which we're not sure about, by the way. We're not sure yet. The TBD.
No. Yeah, we're gonna realize what's gonna happen at the end.
So what's up, Dave? What's up, Dave? What's up, Bobby?
So you really batted that one away. You know, you actually make as a therapist, you make leading comments, and then the person usually takes the ball and runs with it. You took the ball and gave it right back.
Here's what I'll say.
A big turnover to start the game.
I have a few things to say about HSL. First and foremost, I was basically promised a championship.
Well, the sheriff let you down.
The sheriff let you down.
The sheriff basically, whatever. It's fine. I think that, and this will probably a good
although wait, Aaron Moshe made me promise to bring up on the podcast that he and Prager and the boys did bring Gordon Companies a Gridiron Gauntlet championship, which may be the most prestigious, championship to date.
I should have had the trophy with me. I am a Gridiron Gauntlet champion. What I will say is, I think, and I've mentioned this a bunch of times actually on the Keep Hustling podcast. I think that we discussed this also in your little teaser, your episode coming up shortly.
We have a teaser,
and that is that your episode's coming up shortly. That the value of sports in kids' lives, I think, is so incredibly unquantifiable, and especially, and I don't just say this because I'm talking to you guys, I've said this a bunch of times, people who are willing to invest in our kids' development on and off the court, I really am grateful for, and that's why I think that that's why I'm so invested in league success. It's actually the polar opposite of why I'm invested in the adult league success, because I love just to see a bunch of adults acting like a bunch of babies. So like I'm more in it for the post-game rants, complaints. I love the fact that there's like a whole reorganization of the rules committee and that was necessary. And as you know,
you're actually following. Of course
along. I am. Well, I'm following along only because I get berated by WhatsApps and you can't even mute that. But in all seriousness, like, you know, what adults love about sports and playing in these leagues is that it gives us like a taste of it gives them and us. I wish I played more of it, but like of a taste of our youth. And it's cute. And like, obviously in the end of the day, people are passionate about it and we take ourselves way too seriously. And that's why I love it. Like I joke about it, but I love the fact that people are passionate about the rules, because you should be passionate about the rules. And that means that they're also invested in the success of the league. But the exact same principle applies for kids, just a little bit differently. And we definitely have discussed this. And I think that this is super important about HSL. And that is like, my son knew that there were two people primarily rooting for him to succeed in the league this past year. When, by the way, championship, by the way.
Yes.
He won the ship by Annie's Kitchen. You guys can eat my dust. But the, by the way, no, he's much bigger than me. I'm sorry. He's scary. But but you know, me and obviously my wife and her family and his coach. Like we spoke about this. His coach, I think his name was Raj.
Yeah,
Oh,
Ross.
Like zero.
It's actually wait, Aaron. This is very Avi. His name is Raz, R-A-Z.
Raz.
Avi's
That's what I said. I
called
said
him
Raz.
Raj. Oh yeah, Avi's been calling him Raj
Raz.
for like a year
Yeah,
and a half.
Ross.
And I
But
said, "What's your name, Raz or Raj?" He said, "Raz."
but
I'm calling you Raj.
the idea that a complete stranger could be so invested, like we discussed this on my podcast, like the guy bought them sweatbands before the semifinals in the team blue color, and he was like, guys, don't let me down, bring the energy. And not that they were worried about letting him down or that he wasn't having fun, but like that level of fun and that level of believing, having someone else believe in you, leads to kids believing in themselves. And if there's anything we need, it's for kids to believe in themselves even when they fail. And by the way, it's horrible basketball. Like this, I don't even remember that double overtime. Oh gosh, oh it's horrible.
I
But-
think I think when we first started, Aaron, I think back in the Young Israel Forest Hill, whatever the Forest Hills, whatever that place gym was. I think the first one of the games might have been your kid's game was like 0-0 final
No,
score.
1-0. It was 1-0 because at the end there was like a foul game. There was like a foul shot, and they brought the guy like basically to a layup. Like what's by the polar opposite of the rules in the adult league. Like they basically make up the rules as they go along, which is great. I'm totally fine with it. Like there was one guy who was screaming like travel, and the ref like looked at him and was like, dude, if I go that travel, I'll be on my whistle the whole game and nothing's gonna get anywhere. But I do that I think is like super important for kids is realizing that someone believes in them, and then that makes them want to work harder, and that makes them want to practice, and that makes them want to join the team. And obviously there's a lot of other values which our local counselor can talk about, the psychological effects of teamwork and things like that. But it's great. It's great fun. I mean, the coach got teed up in the championship. A kid got thrown out for cheering from underneath during a foul shot. Like, and you know what? If you don't have fun with it, then that's also a problem. So that's why I love HSL really.
You know, it's interesting. This sort of emphasis on winning. You know, some people get upset about it. You're also talking about having fun, and something me, Avi, and I struggle with, publicly on the podcast and the discussions is, some people say, "Oh, it should just be chilled. It should just be chilled." And Avi and I, we have a very close relationship with HSL Hall of Famers, both Steve Pollan and Glenn Zuckerman, who we'll get to in a minute. I know you have a relationship with Glenn going back.
Is there an HSL Hall of Fame?
Yeah, there is.
We actually established it. What was it? How long ago was this? Like 6 months ago, almost a year ago.
Less than a year ago. We
So basically, my hope is that like 20 years from now, when there's like a what's called like the Veterans Committee, where like a writer gets in, or like I want to be the Jerry Jones of the HSL. I want to be the sponsor that gets in, like first ballot Hall of Fame sponsor.
It's funny. The HSL was around for a while because Ariel Cohen started the Hooker Softball League, but like these guys were playing in like the progenitors of the HSL, so a lot of their Hall of Fame,
Well, this is like AFL, NFL type stuff. It's
Basically,
yes, it would also be a little bit like a Negro League, getting elected into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame kind of thing. There's some of that, but there's still active players.
Like Glenn Zuckerman broke the age barrier. I hope he hears that.
Glenn, we could tease
but I will say this about the winning thing, and I believe here's the thing. Okay, I grew up in a house, two brothers. I'm an identical twin, so competition was fierce, and my mother didn't allow, just for space reasons. I lived in the city. The participation trophies never made it past the front door. Like I tell my son all the time, like I literally, like my parents lived on the 20th floor, and like the sound of the participation trophy going down the garbage chute and racketing its way down is enough to inspire you to practice a little harder on the basketball court. But I think that there's room for both. And, I'll give you an example. My son, we're upstate in a bungalow colony for the summer, and I went to his absolutely terrible flag football championship game. Absolutely terrible. Because at a certain level, there should be quarterbacks, like parent quarterbacks,
Right.
That's fine. But and he was trying really hard. And he was the captain, and they blitzed on the last play, and he stumbled and didn't work out, whatever. And my wife said to me, sometimes you push him too hard because second place is the first loser. But I lifted him up afterwards and I said, you had fun, you made it to the championship, you did good, and as long as you tried your best. But I do think that one of the things that's missing in our generation and the next generation, not to get like too philosophical, is like not everyone wins. Not everyone wins. That doesn't, and you know what the beautiful thing about playing in a youth sports league is? Everybody can have fun.
Yeah.
Not everybody can win, but everybody can have fun. In life, not everybody wins, and also not everyone gets to have fun.
You know, we should ask Steve and Glenn when they lose. Did they have any fun in the championship they just lost to you?
Well, when I beat them,
like,
when I beat them in championship,
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, Aaron. My question for those fellas is if they're able to have fun.
No, but by the way, I think also there's a certain level of like personal pride as you get older. That there's like a little blissful ignorance when you're a kid. But I remember, my wife knows this story. Like I remember vividly. This is gonna sound like absolutely terrible, but like I remember vividly. It was March of 2006 when we lost in the Yeshiva League semifinals. When I was a senior in high school, we had won the championship junior year, and we lost. We lost to Mag and David at JC. I can give you details about this game that will make you nauseous. But I remember the feeling like I failed my parents, which like was the farthest thing from the truth. Like my father, Olav Shalom, was like the ultimate fan. Anyone who listens to this who like remembers those days, it was literally a rule made in the Yeshiva League because of him that you can't bring cowbells or any other paraphernalia because he was the guy who had the cowbell on his hat. Whatever. It was great. But I remember afterwards, I literally remember vividly coming out of the locker room, obviously very emotional. It was basically the end of my basketball career. And I remember hugging my mother, as was my minhag after the games, to hug my mother full of sweat, which my son, Baruch Hashem, has continued whenever my mother comes to his games. And I said to her, I'm so sorry. I remember it. I remember crying and saying, I'm sorry. And she said, what are you sorry about? Like, I'm so proud of you. But like at the time, I couldn't digest it. It was, we got down big. It was a long bus ride. Like I could tell you about all the things. But what I will tell you about having fun is like, I remember my 8th grade championship. I remember losing that. I remember winning the basketball championship for Ramaz in 2005. Anyone who's listening to this remembers that. We broke a 42-year drought.
Oh, it was a 42-year drought. I didn't know that, but I saw it on your WhatsApp status.
Ramaz had never won a boys basketball championship. They had made it to the finals like 14 or 15 times.
Even with all those Seneca boys.
Yeah, and it was like, I'm telling you, I could have floated on air that night. And I didn't play that much. I was the backup. I was the backup point guard, but like it was. So of course you have to have fun. When you get older, it stings more because you also have the pain of recovery afterwards that you don't have when you're a kid. But like I played in the JCC Maccabi games. We lost. I got a silver medal in those. I remember those cheaters from LA beat us. But like, I think you got to have fun. You got to have fun.
You got to have fun. There's nothing sweeter than winning, though. So speaking of Glenn Zuckerman, you know the Zuckerman family?
Yeah, I actually know Glenn the least, but I will say that because Glenn is, as I said, he broke the age barrier in HSL. So Glenn was already out of Camp Seneca Lake in 1996 when I arrived.
Glenn was getting Social Security in 1996.
Exactly. I hope he's listening to this. So Brett, I think, was my division head, or might have been the boys' head counselor at that point. TJ was my CIT the next year. And Ross was still in camp. He's never left camp. Like my niece is there now. Like Ross is like still in camp. It's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. Ross actually.
Does he live up there?
I don't know, but I'll tell you this, and I hope that Glenn, even though Ross is not listening to this, I hope that Glenn plays this for Ross. And that is, I actually learned a life lesson in science from Ross Zuckerman. And this is like totally off topic, but I'm so glad you brought this up because you didn't bring it up, but I did. In 1998, I was in a bunk in Camp Seneca Lake in which Ross lived, even though he was like on the maintenance staff or something like that. He wasn't yet the assistant head counselor. And he had this pulley system where attached to the rafter in the bunk, this was before bunks with air conditioning and like all the things that our kids have now. Mm-hmm. He basically had like a wheel, and then he had a string hanging from it. And the way he hung his shirts and his like Shabbos pants so that they didn't get wrinkled, I really hope he's listening to this because I vividly remember it, was the string came down, there was like a little bar, he hung the clothes on it, and they pulled the string up, and the wheel made it into a pulley. And to this day, I know like how to use a pulley from Ross Zuckerman in 1998 in the Camp Seneca Lake bunk.
That's pretty amazing that he was able
and they
to
didn't throw us out.
that.
96, 97, 98, 99. They didn't throw my brother and I out. We almost got thrown out in 1999 because we I'm not going to mention the guy's name because I actually do remember the guy's name. And I guarantee if you ask my twin brother, he'll remember. There was a kid in our bunk who just really ticked us off. And one day when he was at breakfast, they used to have these butter packets in Camp Seneca Lake. Like it was like a piece of cardboard with a piece of butter on it and like a little piece of wax paper on top. And we took like 50 of them. We went back to the bunk and we just smeared his bed covered in butter in his sleeping bags when he got into bed that night. It was like, and I think we almost got thrown out for that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we almost got thrown out for that. But it wasn't the same Seneca. And Glenn will 100% verify what I'm about to say.
Uh,
In 1996, at the end of the summer of 1996, everybody said goodbye, like Camp Seneca Lake was going to close. Ike Gelber, I think was his name, was the boys' head counselor. Irv Bader, the legendary owner and director, was there. And by the way, to this day, when I see Irv, like we embrace each other, like he's the best. But everyone basically thought the camp was going to close. There was like 200 kids in the camp. And then what happened that summer, anyone who's old enough to remember, you guys are too young, was Camp Raleigh closed after the summer of 1996. And there was or 97, and there was a huge explosion in Camp Seneca Lake. And that's really when the camp took off. But until
why
then,
did they think Seneca was going to close?
Because there wasn't enough demand. Like there was the Raleigh Seneca thing. La Vie was always like kind of in the background. They didn't like say it, but it was like this, like it was a small place. Like I remember the seaweed pool. Like I can give you all this stuff. That, by the way, the friends I made in Camp Seneca still friends till this day from 1996. So shout out to those guys.
So let's get a little bit more into you professionally. So are you a podcast host or are you a insurance magnate?
I am a trusted insurance advisor by trade. It's in my blood.
Insurance advisor, that's the word.
Yeah, thank you.
But you have an empire, so you're a magnate.
Whatever, you know what? As long as one person, Dava Galib, thinks that, then I'm good. But I am an insurance advisor by trade. I'm extremely passionate about it. My father, Shalom, started our business in 1968. My mother continues to run it every single day, and I'm privileged to work for her. We have offices. We have an office in Queens and Manhattan and Lakewood, and we're expanding.
How old is
rapidly.
your mother? How old's your mother?
My mother's, I don't know if am I supposed to answer that. My mother's 77. She should live and do well. She's not going to listen.
77. Wow, and she's working full time.
She's awesome. She's a rock. She's the best. But
no, it's amazing. It's amazing.
And by the way, I would say to anybody, if you really want to, not to get too philosophical about careers, but find a career where my father was almost 82 when he passed away, and he worked till 2 weeks before he passed away. Not because he had to, but like if you enjoy what you do and you can make a nice living and you don't have to kill yourself and you have a son or a daughter or an heir or someone who can follow in your footsteps, who will take the one-day trips for a meeting in Chicago or Florida when you're 80, you can find something that you enjoy. So I enjoy being in the insurance business. I enjoy helping people, but I equally enjoy.
What are those one-day meetings in Chicago and Florida?
Like clients who need, house appraisals or claims or new business meetings or renewals or things like that.
So something I was confused about, I was looking on your website earlier, and I know you're a New York risk advisor, which is great marketing, great branding. Obviously turned me on to the marketing and branding stuff a little bit. A little while ago, you posted that you're soon going to be New Jersey risk advisor or our New Jersey risk advisor. But then I went to your website and it said you sell insurance in all 50 states. So
yeah, no. So I opened an office in Toms River, New Jersey, and some guy made a comment when I was there. He's like, "Well, you're the NY risk in the parking lot. Like, you can't be the NJ. Like, what do you mean you don't sell?" So I just bought these like fake license plates that say NJ risk, and like, that's just But I am part of my whole being. Is being the NY risk advisor, because like New York.
That just means that your office is in New York. That mean that you're licensed in New York.
And by the way, the beautiful thing about being an insurance advisor is I can today sell a policy in Arkansas or Florida or Alabama or California or Geneva for that matter. And then I started the Keep Hustling podcast just under 2 years ago because.
Oh, really?
I'm not quite at episode 100, but I'm getting there. I'm right behind you.
We just churn them out. Our production quality is not like yours, but we're a quantity. The content is very qualitative. The production values could use a little work, but quantity, we just churn them out.
Yeah, but I think podcasting was something I always wanted to do. People say I have a radio voice. I did basketball.
You do.
Yes.
I did basketball.
But you have a TV face, Aaron. You have a TV face.
Flattery is going to get you nowhere. Like, this is a podcast. Most people are going to be listening to it. That's really going to get you nowhere. But I think Avi's like literally just enjoying this total. Like, he didn't realize that you could be like so.
Every compliment Dave gives you, in my mind, it's like, oh, there's an extra $1. No, I'm just.
Yeah, exactly. You're also in sales like me, but it's also like I'm so passionate about Keep Hustling. Like we've discussed this many times. Like, it's the same thing as youth sports. It's every single person needs to find what drives them and chase it. And I'll tell you something interesting, and not to bring up, I'm not going to mention any names just because I don't think that that's right to you. But we have discussed that I was not as intimately involved, but involved with another youth sports league, and And one of the sports that they do is bowling. And I know that we should probably get into that, in Queens, hopefully. But and obviously there's a bigger market share. But why do I say that? Because there was a kid on my bowling team, as you guys know, who bowled a 300.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And the craziest part about it was the best thing, and what made me feel good, and what made this sponsorship work that had nothing to do with business was this kid couldn't even express. He was such a quote unquote dork, if you will, nerd, that he couldn't even express the excitement of bowling a 300 when they tried to put him on camera afterwards. And that is keep hustling, and that is what youth sports are supposed to be. That every person could find in them what they're great at and what they're passionate about. That can be their thing. And it doesn't. My thing doesn't have to be your thing. And you could be a softball player, and I could be a basketball player, or I could be into chess, or I could be into programming. As long as people are constantly pushing themselves to keep hustling, keep doing what they're doing, that's what it's about. And I can't tell you, obviously, and again, we're going to take things that are illegal, immoral, and unethical out because that leaves the conversation. But, who would have said that two guys would be so passionate about other people's kids playing sports? Not to give the Zuckermans another shout out, but who would have said that a family would be so passionate about other kids going to sleepaway camp? They were doing this before, they never left. So before they had kids, they were helping other people's kids have a great summer. And if you do that, and if that's where your passion lies, the world is a great place. It's when people don't do that, or when people hide from who they are, or when people do what other people want them to do, or chase someone else's dream, where they fail. I know that was super philosophical, but that is what HSL is about. That is what Keep Hustling is about. And that is even what my profession of being an insurance agent is about. It's something that I'm passionate about, that I love, that a lot of people think is boring, but I love it. And I'm able to provide my family and have fun and continue my father's legacy and build my own legacy and continue my mother's legacy. So sorry.
So before we get into insurance, who came up with the name Keep Hustling and how?
So I don't know how. I'm going to be honest. I just randomly on social media started using the hashtag. I actually should give credit. There's a guy whose name is Jeff Teskey. He was in the insurance software business. He sold his business called Forge 3. Now he's in a new startup. He's a great guy. He was actually on my podcast. And I discovered later that he had sent me a t-shirt when I was unpacking my office a year ago. He sent me a t-shirt that said Keep Hustling. I don't know if that's where it came from, but for me it was, I was grinding it out. My friends are grinding it out. We're doing conferences and all this kind of stuff. And I realized that it's not for everyone, and everyone deserves to feel like they're achieving something, not because they're in someone else's hustle culture. And Keep Hustling is not the negative hustle culture of America in 2025. Keep Hustling is define your hustle. It's a lifestyle. It's a mindset. You have your dreams in action and they don't quit. And those are slogans, but it's true. I've often said my wife is the biggest hustler I know. And if you were to see her, you'd be like, she works part-time. What does that mean? She got 5 kids. Watch her. My daughter on Tisha B'Av yesterday ran a camp in the bungalow colony. She had 8 campers for 3 of them. It was like the bunk was 9 kids and there were 3 counselors. It was 4 hours. She came back afterwards and she's like, oh, that was hard. This one, she's 11. She's got a personality. And I was like, yeah, imagine being your mother. Imagine every day doing that. And that's what Keep Hustling is. And so I'm super passionate about it. I don't know where it came from, but my friends pushed me to do it. So that's what we do.
They pushed you to do the podcast?
The podcast, yeah. I had a bunch of friends in the insurance industry that were like, you got to have a podcast. So eventually I just gave in, and I'm having some fun with it.
Having some fun with it. Oh, it looks like you're having a lot of fun. You have a radio voice. I'm not going to give you any compliments, okay? It's a mediocre podcast. You may or may not want to check it out. Mediocre podcast, mediocre guests, mediocre hosts.
Right, exactly.
That I happen to really enjoy and really high production values. So you have the Keep Hustling podcast, which is not about insurance. It's got a huge variety of guests talking about all kinds of different things. Very fun and interesting to listen to. But let's get into insurance. So people don't know. People probably don't even think about it. You step foot onto an HSL game and you're insured. And there's insurance. We've had probably about 5 injuries already. Has anybody sued? How does that work? Well, we've probably had about 5 serious injuries in the year and 2 years or so.
In the gridiron gauntlet itself, we had a couple of broken noses and we had a torn ACL and we had just in that one day.
Yeah. And then we had a torn Achilles in the basketball league, Avi.
I love how softball.
I love how Avi just
no, but what about Derek?
Him with the negative energy.
It's
Yeah,
part of
remember,
the
remember,
it's part
remember
of the
that torn
marketing. It's part
ACL
of
and
the
broken nose?
part of the you know, actually, I feel bad. I actually want to give a public apology. I'm not going to say the name, but um, we're it always turns back to this. We were talking, on Aaron's on the Keep Hustling podcast, which will come out soon. How my my second job, they call it, my second hustle is the Chavetz Chaim raffle. So one of the guys who got, really badly hurt in the gauntlet. A lot of people got hurt in the gauntlet. I guess I missed reaching out to him after the tournament was over, and obviously in the moment I went over to him. I said, I hope you're okay, and I spent some time with him. I actually got his phone and his keys, whatever, helped him out. I never messaged him after. Definitely my fault on me. And then, fast forward like 5 months, I hit him up for the Chavetz Chaim raffle campaign,
You're
and I get a
savage.
massive message back saying how he's upset at me and how could I do well. And I felt terrible. Like, he was right. I don't know if he had to come at me with a 4-paragraph thesis, but he was right. Like, felt super,
Can I ask you a question?
felt terrible. I felt
No, I
really
want to
bad.
ask you a question because I know how big of a savage you are. Dave, back me up on this. Had he not said anything, you wouldn't have felt bad. So you're lying. Meaning, I understand. Once he said it,
I
you're
would
like,
have
oh, maybe
forgot.
he's
I would
right.
have forgot. I
Right,
would have forgot.
exactly. You are so invested in the raffle, which I love, by the way. It's a savage thing. But it's like, you don't care. You probably hit the guy up on the way out. Like, there he is, like being carted off the field. And you're like, by the way, now that I have your wallet, can I swipe your credit card
Yeah,
for,
no,
for
you're right. You're
how much
right.
can I swipe your credit card for? But don't worry, I'll put you on my WhatsApp status so I don't have to raise money for
The
anyone else.
answer is I'm so locked in on raising that money that in the moment I just forget. Like, it doesn't. You're right, exactly. It
100%.
doesn't. It doesn't fit. But then when I get the 4-paragraph message and I'm like, oh shoot, why did I bring that up again? Oh, because he was one of
Can we
one of
do
the people who got
anyways?
in.
Well,
Oh,
by the way,
okay.
sick idea for Gauntlet 2026. But you got to get a sponsor for like a medical tent. No, but like a legit like medical tent. Like imagine it was like taping ankles and like ice buckets. And like you ever see like those like like someone gets hurt and like there's like 3 people in gauntlet gear like run out onto the field, timeout, and they stretch the guy off. Like it would be like next level. Like at least a golf cart with like the
Yeah.
thing for them to sit with the leg in the back. This is what, by the way, the reason why there's so many injuries in gauntlet is because a bunch of people that shouldn't be working out so hard for so long in a day are doing it. Like these guys are yeshiva guys, and it's great. But to get to your point, Dave, about insurance, everybody needs insurance. Insurance is, I think you guys will verify, and I think this is maybe what you were getting at, is that the value of insurance, the peace of mind to the person, to the individual, or to the operation, or to the league. Meaning, obviously, we as and I grouped the three of us as the risk management team of HSL don't want anyone to ever get hurt. We don't ever want something bad to happen to someone, God forbid. We don't want, which has never happened, thank God, and hopefully it doesn't happen, but like something terrible to happen at a facility that the league is renting. But not only do they require insurance, but the more we get to know each other, the more you guys are learning about insurance, you realize that peace of mind of saying we can run the league in an appropriate manner, and then we have this backstop, to borrow the softball term, behind us. That safety net allows businesses to operate and allows individuals to operate. And thank God no one sued the league so far, but if you're in business long enough and you get big enough, God willing, something bad is going to happen. And that doesn't mean we wish it on anybody or any individual or any particular. There's if you do this for the next 30 years and you have eventually 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 teams in 5 different locations, God willing, like someone's going to knock a light out in a building and like something's going to come crashing down. It's just going to happen. Someone's going to hit a car with a baseball, like probably.
That's happened. That's definitely happened.
I'm saying one of those things is going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's why you have the insurance. And it's I don't want to say it's a necessary evil, but if you think about the peace of mind that it provides you, and then you're able to deliver a better product to the people in the league, adults and kids, then that's great.
Yeah.
So, Aaron, what's your bread and butter in the insurance industry? What kind of policies are you selling?
So we sell property and casualty insurance. So not really, we work a little bit in the financial planning space, but it's more like businesses, homeowners, all different types of businesses from sports leagues to
casualty insurance? What's the difference in
casualty? So property is your stuff. In your league, it doesn't really exist, but like let's say you had equipment that could get damaged. That's property. That's your property. And casualty is someone else. It started from death, but it could be any damage to a third party. So someone else gets hurt.
So that's our main thing. HSL's main thing is the casualty insurance.
Right, 100%, because someone could get hurt or a facility could be damaged that you're renting, and therefore
they that too. I didn't realize we had coverage.
So this is anybody from the outside that could sue you because they were damaged by you, obviously unintentionally. That's casualty insurance. So, I mean, And so if you think about it, it's everywhere, right? Every car in the United States of America must have the casualty side, the liability side. Doesn't have to have the property side. Obviously, if you lease or you have debt, you have to have the comp and collision.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need that there. Nobody says when you buy a piece of jewelry that you have to insure it. Smart thing to do, but you don't have to. So that's the property side. But if you think about where it's everywhere, and it is the peace of mind, and so I really just get to give people peace of mind, and I get to make a decent living doing it, and I get to build relationships. Like I don't hide behind an 800 number or, just emails or texts. Like my phone's available, and we try to respond quickly with service.
Yes, you do. I can certainly attest to that. We're often down to the wire with stuff, and you're very responsive. So I was looking at your website earlier. Where do cars come into what you do?
So cars come into both on the personal and the commercial side. So HSL can have a vehicle, and that could be commercial. Or
We need a vehicle.
Or Dovagali can have a vehicle. And those two, right, we insure both of those.
But don't I go to Geico to get my
Right, that's what I was going to ask. Hey, you stole my question.
You don't have to go to Geico. You don't
Dave,
have
I
to
had
go
one
to Geico.
question, and you stole it.
Geico is a direct-to-consumer insurer. I'm an independent agent, so I work with 40 competitors of Geico in New York State.
Okay, because I kind of feel like I'm getting ripped off on my car.
Same here. State Farm's ripping me off.
Should we talk about it?
We could talk about it. Everyone thinks they're getting ripped off on their insurance until they see what their friends are paying until they ask somewhere else. Auto insurance in the United States of America, specifically in New York State, specifically in New York City, is horrible.
Uh-huh.
So we're all getting ripped off, but then again, having a car is a first world problem. So
Aaron, my State Farm agent admitted to me on the call that he himself is looking into other insurance, and he would suggest I do the same. That's how bad it was.
Right, but what do you think you're going to save?
I don't know.
Look, do you think that even if you switch, you're going to save more than 10%?
Yes, I want to.
We're gonna shout out one of two sponsors here on the HSL podcast. If you save more than 10% switching, I will pay for dinner for the three of us at either Smash House or Annie's Kitchen. Your choice.
All right. Challenge accepted.
Or we could do breakfast at Main Street Bagels, but I assume you're probably more of a dinner.
Yeah, and also, Aaron, now that we moved out to the Five Towns area with our men's league, now we got Holy Schnitzel there. We got Bravo's there, so we have a lot of options if you want to travel. Wall Street Grill in the city.
We should do. Let's go. Maybe if there's when the HSL
Barbacoa.
comes out, maybe when the HSL Mobile comes out, the HSL Mobile comes out, the vehicle. Like, what do you think it should be? What kind of vehicle do you think it should be?
I don't know, but whatever it is, Nate Nussy or Nate from MS Motors has got to get us the deal already. I've been waiting on him for.
It should be a Sprinter. Hear me out. A wrapped Sprinter that has like a pimped out lounge in the front area of the back seat. So like you imagine you pull it up at like one of the baseball games, one of the softball games, like that's the VIP lounge, like where you're sitting, right? And then the back is for like equipment. So like there's a divider, and then like you put the equipment and stuff in the back. Wrapped.
Who gets to go in the lounge?
Sound. Maybe it's a giveaway. Maybe it's a package.
Dave. Not only is
MVP.
A little rooftop deck. Come on, I have the whole vision.
Not only is Aaron Gordon
and
one of
you
the
could get Zalman Pollock to sing to you on there.
That's what I'm saying. Like the Zalman Pollock national anthem will be from the deck of the
HSL Sprinter.
By the way, talk about a great example. Zalman is a good friend, and he was on the Composing podcast. But like, great example of someone who like without HSL, like I would be lost. And if he didn't have those games to go to, would he like?
It's funny you say that because I invited him to my basketball team. He calls Avi and to assess the talent. Calls me back a minute later. He says, "No, I'm not interested."
We were at a bar. I just want you to know, like,
I said, "That's cold, Zalman."
I just want you to know, like,
that's very cold.
This is literally how HSL operates. Like, this perfect to what we were discussing before about adults. Like, he comes over to me at a bar mitzvah one day, and he's like, "I'm sorry, man." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "I just had another plate of food, which means tonight's gonna be a disaster for Team Gordon Company." And I'm like, "We're literally like our friend's son's bar mitzvah, and this is what we're talking about is like the HSL game that's gonna be."
Which Gordon Company's team was that?
That was their basketball team in the
basketball team. Probably last fall would be my guess. Very, 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 very not good. Very not good.
Zalman. Yeah. So Zalman, Aaron, what's the biggest mistake people make with insurance?
Thinking that it's not important, thinking that it's just the cheapest commodity. And that doesn't mean you need to buy from me, but speak to an independent agent. Speak to someone who will at least give you the advice. There is no excuse in 2025 to be an uneducated insurance consumer. What that means is you can buy the cheaper product, but you should at least know what it is. Everybody knows when they buy the cheaper computer that it probably won't last as long. And obviously that's a very simplistic example, but like, you know, when you cut the corners, what you're getting yourself into. And you should, we have people, by the way, that tell us, I know exactly what the risk is for my business or for my personal insurance, and I'm willing to take it. And who might argue with them? But what a person shouldn't say is, I wish I knew that for $10 more, I could have had better insurance. Or I wish I knew that for X, they could be covered. Or I wish I knew that I should have thought about that and not just what the requirement was. And so it's so easy to get lost in the expense side of it. Then when you have a claim, it's like, I've been on the record multiple times saying the hardest thing in my business is to avoid saying I told you so, which obviously we don't do.
Can you give us an I told you so story though?
Yeah. So like I'll give you like any business that has employees should be thinking about what's called employment practices liability insurance. That means that if an employee, if someone sues the company for discrimination or sexual harassment or that they were underpaid or that they were unfairly not promoted or anything like that, the business is covered. And like I had someone who lost close to $1 million, and like that defense coverage would have been taken care of by insurance. Or even more prevalent is like people take cheap homeowners insurance. I'm like, dude, you live in New York, gotta think about that sewer backup. And they're like, that's never gonna happen. And then there's an old tree root that backs up their house, and the policy I offered them had $100,000 in sewer backup for another $13, and they took the $5,000. And then like their basement's destroyed, covered in feces, and like they don't even know where to start. And so it's like, imagine, at least people should know that it's $13 before. Like so many people don't. The United States of America has been driven by the Gecko and Flo and Mayhem and all those people who you're used to seeing. I mean, they say the stat is that it's the most advertised industry in the world is the United States personal insurance industry. You cannot go online, turn on the radio, turn on the TV, open the newspaper, drive on a highway without seeing an ad for one of those companies. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't do what we were just talking about, Avi, and taking the 15 minutes and potentially saving 15%. But you should just be educated as to what the differences are and what you're being sold. And nobody thinks that the insurance salesperson is just selling them to the bottom line. And like, I hate to give insurance salespeople a bad name, but I tell people all the time, like, maybe my product's not for you. And I'm fine with that. But you should at least know what you're giving up on. Yeah, that's the biggest misconception, is that it's not important.
It is an interesting point, talking about being philosophical, that insurance, which is a very serious matter, has the Gecko and Flow and everything else.
So stupid.
So
you make light of something that's so important. And I tell people, like, insurance is a risky business. Obviously, it's the business of risk. But it's, I'll tell you, not to, anyone who's into finances, even though insurance is an expense, it's actually an asset, not a liability. If you understand that, if a person understands what I just said, then you'll take it more seriously. If you realize.
Well, 1 second, Aaron. How do I know okay, so one of the issues with Avi, who you called a savage before, is that, he'll say, they'll say to me, I called this person 5 times. They haven't even replied to me. They said you could call me, blah, blah, blah. They didn't pick up my calls. And I'll say, you're asking them to give you money. And he'll say, it's an opportunity with such indignation, such righteous outrage. And I'm like, Avi really believes this. He really believes that. I mean, it is an opportunity. He's right, but he can't see another side to it. So how do I know when you're talking about insurance?
1 second. Fact. A bad insurance loss can bankrupt someone. Is it possible that the cheaper product or the less high-end product would pay for that? Yes, it's possible. But all that I'm saying is, if you buy a policy, for instance, I'll give you a very good concrete example that everyone should be thinking about.
Before the example, Aaron, I am not sleeping with Glenn. Glenn said I'm sleeping. He's not commented I'm sleeping on the podcast. I'm not sleeping. I'm being a good podcast host. I'm practicing my
Glenn is commenting on the
professionalism.
live stream.
Yeah,
He's commenting via text on a group chat, and he's saying
I would just
sleeping.
say, tell him he should be sleeping. Maybe he should be at the Senior Citizens Buffet right now.
I was gonna say, after his 1-for-8 performance against me in the championship a few weeks ago.
Great performance, because he's about to have his hips replaced. Just wait.
All right, Aaron, get into the example. I'm sorry for cutting you off. I just had to respond.
But it's like, think about this, okay? The number one risk that every single individual has in the United States of America is driving a vehicle. If you drive a car, and by no intention you rear on the person in front of you, or a kid jumps out in front of your car, and someone is injured, you can get sued and you have to pay money for that. And in the states that are heavy plaintiff states, New York, Kentucky, Texas, places like that, you have to think about that. Now, what if I told you that, I'm going to put Avi on the spot. You have that State Farm policy?
Yeah, do I have it on me?
See if you can pull it.
Yeah, but I have to swipe out I'm on my phone on the podcast. So
Okay, so forget that. So let's just say that I had someone who sent me last week a policy that had minimum limits on it. $50,000 per accident. $50,000. Which means that if God forbid they get into an accident, they get sued.
Yeah.
The insurance company will pay only up to $50,000. Now, taking aside just for a second, Avi, and I know you're gonna jump on this.
Yep.
Taking aside the fact that you feel like your insurance cost is outrageous. Whatever company it is that's the least outrageous. You said you were going to look at Geico, you're going to look at Allstate against State Farm.
Yeah.
If you had a $50,000 limit and I told you that whatever the number was, you could go from $50,000 to $300,000 or $500,000 for $54 or $100 a year, would you do it?
No, 1,000. What do you mean? 1,000%. What's the question?
So forgetting what the starting point is that you feel like you're getting ripped off. Let's forget that.
Right. Okay.
If I told you that you go from $50,000 to $250,000 for $54 a year,
yeah,
it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, of course.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Dave, right? You agree, right? Yet nobody thinks about that because what happens is when you call the Gecko, their goal is 15 minutes, 15%.
The Gecko.
But you understand what I'm saying? Like,
it makes sense.
And so for me, it's like, understand that.
Yeah.
Understand the fact that in America, everyone thinks the fastest way to make a buck is to get hit by someone in a car. Right? Tracy Morgan famously said, "Is it Tracy Morgan who said he got hit by he got in an accident with a UPS truck, and that's why he was set for life, not all the money that he made in acting." I think it was Tracy Morgan. I think that you can look up that clip, but I think that's what it was. And then he's like, "I'm looking for an Amazon truck next," but that's the truth. And so if you think about the fact that if I gave you that education, even not buying insurance from me, no one has the right in 2025 to be ignorant. And you have to think about it. Because what about the person who gets into the accident? They just didn't see the car in front of them. The car stopped short in front of them. A disabled person. I'm dealing right now with someone who hit a pedestrian who stepped out from in between two cars when it was dark outside. The guy seemingly didn't have any major injuries. Person came to me for advice. They only had $100,000 in insurance, and the demand on the lawsuit is $300,000. That means that if the plaintiff wins, this person is going to be at $200,000. Even though
wow.
Tell me how many people can withstand $200,000. And by the way, the higher net worth you are, the more of a target you have on your back.
Yeah, the more they're going to sue you for.
Right. So imagine the average person that you and I know being told that they have to write a check for $200,000 to another person tomorrow. How does that work exactly? Again, for $54 a year.
Yeah,
now, you could say that there's no end. There ain't the dover sofa. There's no end to the risk side, right? Jeff Bezos can't insure himself for $200 billion. But there is the number where it's like, maybe I should have just taken a little bit more, or taking this a little bit more seriously. And that's where I find things to be challenging.
Right.
We got to wrap in a minute. I want to get to a very sensitive matter. We promised you a great softball team in the spring. Gave you the sheriff.
I did. I did. The father who won 2 championships in a row leading into the season.
So the question for Aaron is, and now Mr. Edelman himself ended up winning the Tier A championship. Queens Jewish Link, Bukharian Jewish Link. You see who is more important to us, Aaron. It's because the rich league. Question is, do you want to throw your lot in with the sheriff again next spring? Or are you ready to take your sponsorship to greener pastures, maybe even to Avi's team or to Steve Pollan and Glenn Zuckerman's team?
I am not interested in sponsoring Avi's team.
Okay, why is that?
Well, I know the answer.
I don't want to be the guy who sponsors the commissioner's team and then he wins and then whatever. I don't want that. In fact, I don't want Avi to win.
Yeah, that's the answer.
By the way,
that's the answer. By the way, that's the answer. Who wants Avi Edelman to win?
Let me tell you something. It may not be nice, but at least I'm being honest. It may not be nice.
That's true.
Now, listen, I think we should run it back with the sheriff. The
sheriff's a winner.
Glenn, as we've said, I'm just a little concerned. He's gonna kill me. If he ever sees me, he's just gonna destroy me. But listen, at a certain point, I'm concerned about the miles on the.
By the way, it's not just
product.
Glenn. It's not just Glenn on that team, Aaron. There are a lot of guys with miles on that team, and Pollen's not going to be happy I'm staying. The Steve Pollen Hall of Famer pitcher, but there are a lot of miles in that team, and I don't think it's a coincidence that they
I mean,
haven't
I
won
would
a
say this to
championship
you,
now in 2 years.
and I would say this to you. I think that usually the Hall of Fame is reserved for people who have been retired for a significant number of years. So I don't know if you're trying to get them to retire. Like I don't know exactly what the plan is, but like like I know that my best years are behind me. I know.
You should know,
I
Aaron.
think
By
I'm
the
still
way,
happy.
once we're on the point of teams, so it's coming fall for the basketball league. We're actually going into 2 tiers. So I don't know what's going to end up happening with your sponsorship for the fall in terms of teams and stuff. But if you do decide to run it back with Zalman Pollock and the boys,
Lame. I don't do no. I don't do tiers is lame. I don't think you guys should tier. It's lame.
we have no
It's lame.
choice.
It's not good.
Aaron,
Wait,
It's
wait,
not
wait.
good.
What, Aaron? What about when you find out that I'm bringing a Tier B basketball team? This is the one that Zalman Pollock turned down. So if you
That's
really want to
because
stick
can
it
I
to
tell you?
Zalman,
I mean, again, we didn't even get into whether I wanted to sponsor Dave's team. Like that's definitely not happening. I'm not a tier B guy. Like I'm not Avi. I'm not Avi. Do I look like a second tier guy? We went through on this podcast.
I
Like,
was gonna say a
I
tier
broke
2
I was part of
champion.
the team that broke the curse.
I was gonna say
I
Zalman
wasn't
Pollock's
like
team went from being in the doghouse in tier 1 to being favorites and not favorites, but being one of the top teams in tier 2.
Can I just say, by the way, I think that, I think that all tier leagues should do this. I think that there should be a tier 1, tier 2 championship game after. Meaning, I
Guys
think
in our
that
softball
even
league were
though you're
vouching
gonna
for
say,
it.
but because even though you're going to say that at the average game, there's probably a large divide between the two.
Mhm.
At least let the best tier 2 team try their hand one game against the tier 1 champ and like maybe humble them a little.
that's what Steve is. Steve is dying. Steve is excited for this fall draft league we're doing because he said these Tier B guys are not going to know what hit them. Aaron, do you? I know you had your basketball history at Ramaz. Do you also have a softball past
I did win a championship there, yeah.
at Ramaz?
2005, yeah, softball championship.
So how come you don't play any HSL ball?
I believe you earlier in this comment in this podcast commented on the prolifery of my offspring.
That was before we were recording.
Right, I would love to. No, I would love to. I just honestly, first of all, there's no greater joy than watching my son play in the sports leagues. I would love to get back out there. God, I don't even know softball. It's funny. I play now with my son. We play catch. Like I found my old mitt. And also, I don't know if you know. Like I don't know if you could tell us about me. The most important part. Maybe Zalman and I have this in common. I don't know if this is true about Zalman, so let me know if it's true. But I feel like it would be true. Like for me, more equally as important to the championship is the gear related to it. Like I'm a cleats guy, socks up, pants tucked into the socks. Everything's got to be tucked in. Belt's got to be straight. Like everything's got to be, the gear's got to be on point. Little sweatband. Like everything has to be in the appropriate manner. So that's what I would say. I would love to get out there. Maybe like a ceremonial first pitch type situation. I'm more of a golfer.
Baby steps, Dave. Let him do the ceremonial first pitch, and then eventually, maybe he'll get into a full time.
Can you imagine that? Like I finally joined, like first game. I'll tell you something funny that happened, and maybe this is a good way to wrap up. So as I mentioned, in this bungalow colony, so I got back to playing ball a couple of years ago, and like it was the last week of the season, of the the end of the summer, and like we play pickup. Like when you finally, Avi, you could totally relate to this for sure. Like you finally feel like you're getting your legs under you, like as the season's progressing.
Yeah,
like you feel like you're dribbling with a little more confidence. You're coming to the plate with a little more confidence. Like it's coming back.
Yeah.
And so like here I am, like at the top of the key, and I'm a small guy, and like I just drive, and a much younger guy who's bigger than me, just no ill intention, just like bumps me on the way up, and I end up like behind the hoop, rolling down the hill, like fat old man, like rolling down the hill, and he comes down, he runs down, he picks me up, and he goes, puts his arm around me, he goes, "Don't ever do that again. You just stand outside, but like we don't need that type of a situation here." So I know where I am at this point. Is it like high pitch? Is it like arc? Like what's the pitch?
No.
It's not high arc, but it depends if you're. The official term, which I only learned recently, is modified. That's the official term. I didn't used to know that term.
Modified softball.
Talking about rules, do you ever catch people who are like turning their hand over or like cheating while pitching?
What is turning?
Like in the Yeshiva League, you weren't allowed to have your.
No,
your
you can't do that. You
wasn't
can't do
allowed
that. You
to
can't
be
do that. You can't do that.
upright.
Well,
So there were
gotta be
guys that
Islam.
would like mask it, who would mask it very well, and like I was all over that. Like you're not going to cheat, no way, no way.
Yeah.
Okay, last thing before we go, you ask everybody in the Keep Hustling what their favorite inspirational or motivational quote is. What's your favorite motivational or inspirational quote?
I end every podcast with it, and that's do well by doing good. I think that there's plenty in the world, plenty of people that can do well just by doing good, and if they find what they're good at and how they can do good to the world and give good to the world, then they'll do well and they'll feel even better.
Very good. All right, thanks so much for coming on, Mr. Gordon. Of course,
thank you, Aaron. We appreciate it.
Hustling podcast. Looking forward to doing it again, and maybe we'll have a extra special podcast coming up with the help of God. And
perhaps. Stay tuned.
Let's do it. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, fellas. Appreciate you guys.
Yep.
Okay.